It was January 5th, 1943. In one instant, Allied artillery didn't just get better, it became far deadlier. The same guns that had fired hundreds upon hundreds of shells started shooting down aircraft with efficiency Germans and Japanese had never seen. Then, almost overnight, they turned their sights on infantry, and the results were horrifying. What the Allies rolled out was a tightly guarded secret. In large part, it helped them win the war. To understand how, we must go back to the very beginning, to a lesson learned in the First World War, where up to 75% of all casualties were caused by artillery. Yet when the 1930s dawned, armies still saw artillery as king. Counter-battery fire, interdiction behind enemy lines, and direct infantry support. Every firing mission began with approximate coordinates, manual maps, rulers, angle boards. Salvo fired, observers peered through binoculars, adjustments made, shells fell, but accuracy, far from ideal. As the Second World War broke out, all armies used the same doctrine: longer bombardments, massed fire, slower movement. Though communications and motorization improved, many fundamentals remained unchanged. Field guns with flat trajectories, howitzers lobbing heavy shells beyond line of sight, mortars for close support, anti-air and anti-tank guns separated by caliber. It all looked familiar. Then came the real difference, not the gun but the shell, the fuse, the trigger of devastation. Shells with point-detonating fuses exploded on impact. Time fuses were set to burst above or behind enemy lines, useful but difficult. A miscalculation of a fraction of a second, and the shell would detonate too soon or too late. Meanwhile, the anti-aircraft war demanded more. Ships facing kamikaze attacks, fleets hunted by dive bombers, direct hits were improbable. Thousands of shells were needed for a single kill. Something had to change. The answer, the proximity fuse. A tiny radar-type device embedded in the shell's nose, set to detonate when the shell passed within deadly range of its target. No need for perfect aim. Just a close pass triggered destruction. Encyclopedia Britannica, a +2, HistoryNet, a +2, but making a fuse that could withstand 20,000 G of acceleration, spin rapidly down a rifled barrel, survive extreme temperatures, and yet house vacuum tubes, batteries, transmitters. It was the kind of engineering only the American war machine could manage. HistoryNet. A +1, the first major real deployment came at sea. On board the USS Helena, 5-inch guns firing VT-fused shells brought down Japanese aircraft with an effectiveness no one expected. The enemy was stunned. What had changed? We are the mighty. A +1. Soon those shells made their way to ground-based artillery. In the freezing forests of the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, German infantry believed the fog would shield them. But then shells detonated above their trenches, spray of fragments raining down. The Germans realized their old defenses no longer worked. CASS. The fuse turned artillery into an airburst weapon. Trench, no protection, open ground. Suicide, they had nowhere to hide. By war's end, America had produced over 22 million VT fuses. Factories that once made Christmas lights shifted to only producing fuses. The scale of production made the secret unstoppable. HistoryNet. A +1. Meanwhile, the Axis powers experimented. Germany, Japan, both attempted proximity fuse technology. But they never matched the mass production, secrecy, reliability of the Allied program. The technology remained America's edge. Wikipedia. A +1. What it meant for the battlefield. The enemy's mobility vanished. Surprise attacks failed. Entire formations were shattered by the invisible wall of shell bursts overhead. The fuse was less a weapon on its own, more a force multiplier for every gun that fired it. So when you hear the stat, that round counts per kill dropped from thousands to mere hundreds, you realize this was not just artillery. This was war re-engineered. We are the mighty. +1. The proximity fuse may not grab as much limelight as tanks, aircraft, or code breakers, but its impact was just as decisive. In the skies, at sea, on land, it changed everything. And that's the story of the shell nobody heard coming. The secret fuse that made the guns of democracy far deadlier than their enemies expected. If you found this story compelling, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment.